I'm Mort Cooper, your host on Change Your Voice, Change Your Life. In studio with me is Dr. John Curtis. The title has been given by John. What is the title, John?
It's Miracles Do Happen.
Okay.
And you know, this is really, a lot of the patients who go through direct voice rehabilitation really feel it's a miracle. Because after they've been injected and they see the results of Botox, by a comparison, this is a miracle. But this really, Dr. Cooper, it really isn't a miracle, is it?
No, it's far from it. It's very simple. We have a young man, a minister, Tim Kidwell. Tim, how many Botox shots did you have?
I had 4.
What did they do for you?
The first one, I did have some relief after about a month of some side effects, and then after 2 months it wore off, went back for another injection, had side effects and no relief. The third time I had the injection where actually he had to try to find the place to insert the needle based upon sound with an instrument that he used, and he wasn't sure if he got it where he should. But and the fourth time, no relief, and then that time the Botox ran down my throat twice because he missed.
It's interesting that Tim talks about side effects because the manufacturer claims that there are minimal side effects. In fact, there are very few. They've even advertised Botox, we've seen it recently in full-page ads in the newspapers, saying that it's a natural purified protein, that it's not, it's about as far removed from Saddam Hussein's missing supply of botulinum toxin that they went to war in Iraq for. And most people don't know this, but the manufacturer, Allergan, actually bought the U.S. military, the U.S. Army's arsenal of botulinum toxin, weapons-grade botulinum toxin, and used that before they had a manufacturing capability. They used that in order to dilute it into what the first dosages were of Botox, and yet the manufacturer claims that there are no side effects.
What year was that, John?
That was 1987.
Okay. Allergan has its own views, and I have my views. I find that Bo for botulinum or botulism and tox for toxin, so they call it a sweet named candy-like substance, is one of the world's deadliest poisons, and it's in attenuated form given into your vocal cords. But I want to play your old voice.
3 separate ear, nose, and throat doctors told me I had VEVS.
3 separate ear, nose, and throat
3
doctors?
separate ear, nose, and throat doctors told me I had VEVS.
That's your voice?
That's what I used to sound like, yes, sir.
And you've been with me, this is the close of your 4th week with me?
That's correct.
I gave up Botox because I found them to be ineffective.
And you gave up Botox to try me, is that true?
This is true also.
The last 3 Botox injections were not effective at all.
Does that sound like you before you got into this condition called spasmodic dysphonia?
No, that's not what I sounded like. That's what I became.
Was it gradual?
Oh, very.
And they told you it's incurable?
That's correct.
3 ear, nose, and throat doctors separately diagnosing you
That's
with
correct.
SD?
Yes, sir.
You've been with me 4 weeks now. Is your condition incurable?
Absolutely not. You know, I feel great. I'm not cured, but my, the improvement is just incredible.
The medics, John, say that spasmodic dysphonia, which you've been diagnosed with, and all patients who have been diagnosed with spasmodic dysphonia, are hopeless. It's a neurological problem. It's a dystonia. How could I change a dystonia?
Well, that's a neurological condition, and you know, of course, well, let me ask Tim. I mean, because maybe you know something I don't know. Is he a neurologist? Has he worked on your nerves in some way that we should know about?
No, no. Well, all he has done is taught me to do what I already ought to know how to do. I mean, when it clicked, I'm going, why did I need somebody to show me how to do this?
Yeah.
You know, it's natural, it's easy, but when you've done it wrong for so long, it's hard.
How long did you do it wrong?
For at least 5 years.
What did I show you to do that you weren't too happy with? Because, as you said before we went on the air, I told you to work on your breathing.
He kept saying, you need to breathe. And I'm thinking, I came in here to get my voice fixed. And he keeps saying, your stomach. And I'm saying, in my head, it's in my throat. And he's saying, you got to work on your breathing, your stomach, you know, it's over.
What was I looking at? Your breathing. Your stomach was standing there. It wasn't moving in. I said, Tim, I want your stomach to go in.
Right, my stomach, when I'd take a breath, and I'd take a breath,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'd start to talk, and I'd hold my breath. My stomach was not collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
There was no airflow.
Yeah, not over your vocal cords. You were strangling your vocal cords, creating a spastic vocal cords.
Oh yes, I know that. I can, you know, the simplicity of it is, I can do it to myself now. Just with just this is what I was doing. Just tightening, not allowing any air, and the thing is that it's so simple to stop that,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't.
Mm-hmm. You fought me on the breathing. Then, when you
I
got
wanna
your
ask
breathing,
Tim-
I put your voice up in the face. Yes.
Let me just want to ask Tim one other thing. Did he spend a lot of time with you talking about your early childhood and your feelings towards your mother and your father?
Let me see that one quick. No, not at all.
Okay, because he has another colleague from the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, who's a very distinguished gentleman in the field, who told me directly that he is one of the best psychoanalysts that he knows. He works on psychogenic varieties of SD. Do you believe that your SD is a psychiatric problem that you've had?
No. Now, I was told that. I'm made to believe it could be by my ear, nose, and throat doctors. It could have something to do with that, but no.
You mean even your ENT doctors told you that it could be a psychiatric problem?
Oh, yeah, they're saying, you know, nobody knows for sure. It could be.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because I heard that, you know, when this condition was first discovered in 1871, that they referred to it as, the fellow by the name of Traub referred to it as nervous hoarseness, and they did think it was a psychiatric condition, and for 90 years that's the way they treated it. Now, why would his doctor, who now is in the modern age, is the ENT, this is the age of neurology and biochemistry and molecular biology, why would his ENT, state-of-the-art ENT specialist, suggest that it's a possibility that it's still due to a psychiatric problem, when that theory was thoroughly discredited?
Mm-hmm. What is discredited remains alive and well, John. And that's the state of the world. You sound fine. This is another voice.
I saw 3 doctors, and each one said I had SD.
3 doctors separately.
Mm-hmm.
And did they ever suggest that you have, other than Botox?
I did have some voice therapy, went to a voice pathologist, but just briefly, 6 visits.
What did they have you do at the voice therapist?
She would feel my neck and say, think about projecting your voice to a certain spot in the room. It had nothing to do with really sounds, it was projection.
Is that a common technique where you actually imagine your voice hitting some part of the room?
They understand what I'm saying, but they have the words but not the music. What did I tell you to do from day one? Hum.
Hum.
Could you hum just what I told you to do? Just hum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now prolong it. I had you go, and I had you put your hands on your midsection. And what happens when you just hum?
Well, when you just my stomach collapses and I feel the buzz in my face.
That's what I was after. That's what you're talking with. Listen to this.
Because my old voice sounded like an old man.
That's you talking today with your new voice.
because my old voice sounded like an old man.
Who said your old voice, the SD voice, sounded like an old man?
My nephews and nieces.
Do you think they'll say you sound like an old man with this voice?
I don't think so. You know, they look at
People
me.
who hear my new voice are really surprised.
Why? You sound much younger.
Yes, sir.
They're surprised I sound so young. So young.
What does a youthful voice sound like, in your opinion? Because there is a difference, and I think there's a lot of people in, you know, there's society that believes as you age, your voice has to deteriorate.
Not at all.
You talk sort of like the old Walter Brennan, you know,
Yeah.
on the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah.
You remember, or was he on the Beverly Hillbillies? What show was he on?
Walter Brennan, he had his own.
Well, he had his own show.
Yeah.
But he sounded, his voice was like of that of a caricature of like an elderly person.
Yes.
Did Brennan really have that voice?
No, that was a put on. Understand, boy, your father went wrong. Well, people are amazed I can do voices. Bond, 007, James Bond. Nancy, is this your old voice?
When I talk, my voice goes.
When I play the old voice, Nancy, you are shuddering.
She's cringing.
And this, you correct me if I'm wrong,
I am hoping that I can talk in a way that's not a break.
and
That's my new voice.
that's your new voice.
And I'm hoping that I can feel more comfortable when I'm talking.
That this is the end of the 4th week for you tomorrow. How do you feel with the new voice?
Oh, I'm so grateful that I can talk without being concerned that people can't hear me, without being self-conscious that it's cracking so much. I am thrilled.
Why are you so thrilled about hearing your new voice?
It has been it's been quite a struggle to make sure that I'm being heard. When you have SD, it makes you somewhat isolated socially. You get to the point where it's too hard to even talk. It's too hard to make the effort to project yourself. It's easier just to listen. You get to the point where it's too much trouble to convey your feelings and your thoughts.
John, you heard the two of them 3 weeks ago on this program.
It's a, you know, when you listen to the old voice, it's painful to listen to somebody with SD. And you can imagine the effect that it has on an audience, that just even whether you're talking to one person over the phone or you're talking to an entire congregation, they think that there's something very wrong with you when you talk that way, most people.
I know.
And it has a terrible effect on your self-esteem. It's like you want to withdraw, you want to isolate yourself, because the messages that you're getting outside you is that you're very sick. There's something terribly wrong with you. Now you can, you know, go and talk. You don't have to be noticed, conspicuously noticed as something that you're a freak. I mean, because in some ways, I mean, when he was in training and they would drag the SD, the few SD patients in, they were made to think that the SD patients were dangerous, psychotic, you know, mentally ill individuals. Be careful, stay away from them.
Hannibal Lecter's.
Because the voice itself creates this robotic inference of a person who has deep-seated problems, some kind of major mental illness going on, when in fact it's the voice struggling to find its natural way of coming out.
You unintentionally, unwittingly use the wrong voice. All strangled voices are in the lower throat. The medical community says so. They call it a dystonia. John, you heard these two individuals before 3 weeks ago. And now you're hearing them talk with a new voice, and you're wondering, how can I do this?
Well,
is it a miracle?
Well, look, miracles. This is not a miracle. This is a systematic attempt to counter-condition bad voice habits. And you found, Nancy, yourself, that undoing the habit is a complicated process in the sense that the old habits don't die easily. But at the same time, when you remain focused on undoing the habit by following the techniques, it goes away. Now, I was talking to an editor at the New York Times, this was just a few days ago, and I said that it's interesting how your paper publishes reports on a very serious condition called spasmodic dysphonia. He said, well, refresh me with that. I said, that's when your voice is strangled. I said, and your editors have published reports in your paper just a little over a year ago where you said that Botox is giving patients with spastic vocal cords back their voices. And I told him, it's not giving them back a natural voice, it's giving them back a Botox voice. And there's a natural cure for this. It's been developed for 35 years. It's by a gentleman out in the West, in Brentwood. Isn't it time that you profile him and you get the record straight in your newspaper? Well, we're going to have to send this. We're going to have to send this back to our health editor. We can't deal with these issues. The health editors know these problems. I said it's the health editors who basically have disseminated the information to the public, basically in these newspapers, that have said that Botox, that medical treatment, that implants, they want to stick cadaver tissue in people's voices, dead, reprocessed skin that is now being injected into the vocal cords, that is the cure. Or collagen injectants. A gentleman out of Philadelphia, one of the most respected names in the field of otolaryngology, swears by, he can give you a voice lift, like a facelift, by injecting you with collagen, just like he would do if you had laugh lines. I mean, this is the state-of-the-art treatment that's being done. That's what and I told him, that's what your paper presents, is implants, Botox, everything that's represented by major pharmaceutical companies that doesn't result in an improved voice, but rather you're saying it does. We asked your editor, we asked your writer, where did you get the information? Who told you that it was giving patients with spastic vocal cords back? And he could not produce the reference for us. I told him that. And he said, well, we'll look into it. I'm going to refer this back to the health section.
The health section is where the mythology and misconception and wrong information.
And this was the guy that is now commissioned at the New York Times with the responsibility of checking out these sources of these journalists who are literally fabricating stories and giving really one of the most prestigious, and you have to admit, it has been one of the most prestigious newspapers, if not the most prestigious paper in the country, a huge black eye over the years. They have had black eye after black eye, and that Jason Blair, who fabricated those stories on the Beltway assassin, we know that this story that came out in the Science Times, which is supposed to be based on scientific fact, medical information, we know that it was fabricated because where's the source? Who told him that Botox was giving? You're living proof that Botox does not give you back a natural voice.
Well, you know what's frustrating about all this? Name of the program is Miracles Do Happen. The thing is, this is so simple. When you understand, when it clicks, it's so simple that it's not funny, even though he's constantly laughing about it.
I say it's simple.
Understand?
Wait, who told you that if you didn't laugh, you'd have to cry? What was that quote?
That's Lord Byron. And if I did not laugh, what is it?
That you'll weep.
And if I laughed, is that I may not weep.
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
if I laughed, is that I may. Yeah.
Well, this is so frustrating because of the fact that we're told, well, you're going to have to learn to live with this. There's no cure. There's things you might do, such as Botox, that might assist you. But that's just life.
I'm glad that Tim is bringing this up too. Go ahead. I want to hear.
I was told that my voice sounded horrible by my ear, nose, and throat specialist, and he said, "Do something." I said, "What?" He said, "I don't know, Botox." But nothing's working.
So he told you your voice actually sounded horrible?
He said it sounded horrible.
Well, Tim had the Botox. The number of people who have had the Botox, which is botulinum toxin in attenuated form, keep that litany, which is that it doesn't work for me. And they keep coming back to that over and over and over. And yet Allergan, the maker of Botox, and the medical community in my field, the American Speech and Hearing Association, say it's the treatment of choice. And they insist that there are no cures. If you have the ability to change your voice, and they're calling it a dystonia, it can't be a dystonia. And I've been reporting cures of your so-called dystonia for 35 years, documenting it. But John, you're saying something which goes back to the essence. You spoke with the editor of the New York Times, did you?
Well, he's in charge of the ethical probe and cleaning up the paper. And he's telling me, the guy who's cleaning up the act, that we must go back to the original Foxes, the original editors who published the story, and to deal with them about it.
I've tried. That's Jane Brody.
No, it's Douglas McNeil Jr. I told him this is the writer.
That's on the front page of the New York Times, March 2nd, 2003, when the New York Times said what?
They said that Botox was giving patients with spastic vocal cords back their voices. Now, here's another interesting. Tim brought up the fact that he was told by his doctor, and this is interesting, that this condition is incurable. And we've inquired about that to all of the key sources. We've gone from committee to committee, from the Mayo Clinic to the National Institutes of Health. We've bounced all over the field asking who says it's incurable.
They all do.
They all say, but they all will tell you that we don't know who came out with the official medical position that the condition is incurable. They say it's common knowledge.
Well, it's common knowledge to call spasmodic dysphonia a focal laryngeal dystonia, which means it's hopeless. But I've been curing it for 35 years, and I cannot cure a dystonia. But you don't have a dystonia. SD is not a dystonia. This is a voice I heard 3 weeks ago. No, this is the voice, and this is the voice I gave you by humming 3 weeks ago. And by that, I knew your voice is feasible to change.
When I'm on the phone, it seems...
This takes a few seconds, folks. This is the old voice. And this is the voice I get. So I know in a few seconds that the voice can be changed. The medical community is saying it's impossible to do so.
Is that why they called you the fastest gun in the West? Because you can get these changes? Because I understand you had that patient that you treated out in, was that Houston or Dallas?
Houston, the Houston Medical Center,
Houston
1976. They called me the fast gun from the West. Russ Malone became the editor of ASHA magazine, which goes to all the speech pathologists in the country. And they had a woman at the program with her patient. She was a PhD, and she couldn't get him out of hoarseness. I got him out of hoarseness in 10 seconds. I said that was on a slow day.
So and they were hoping that you'd flop.
Yeah, but I don't make friends in my field because the Wall Street Journal has quoted the top people in ASHA saying that it takes 3 months or more to figure out where the real voice is. It takes me about 5 seconds on an off day.
Why does it take the medical field so long to diagnose SD when you can diagnose it within a matter of seconds or minutes?
Well, I think there are others like Herb Dito of San Francisco, the surgeon, whose surgery has come and gone, basically, to do it in seconds, too. I think people with good ears can do it, but there are very few good ears in the field of ear, nose, and throat.
Seems like they like to look at the vocal cords.
And voice rehab. Yes, they look at vocal cords. That's their specialty. This is a voice. Where have I heard that voice? If this is the correct voice, I don't believe it is that we're listening to. I thought I was playing that tape, but I'll find it again. Can you imitate your old voice, Nancy?
Oh, I don't know if I can. I hope I can't. Let me see. I don't remember. I'm afraid to even try.
Good. Tim, can you imitate your old voice?
I can, to some degree, I can let it drop down to where, but I'm forcing it.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing now.
Now he's forcing it down.
Yeah,
Isn't that
yeah.
interesting? Before you were forcing it up. Now it's forced down because you don't want to go back to that old voice,
Nope.
do you?
No.
So,
And neither does Nancy. I mean, you can really
Oh, my
tell
God.
the new voice it gives you a completely different image.
so this is the new voice,
Because my old voice sounded like an old man.
and you heard what it sounded like. This is your old voice,
The last 3 Botox injections were not effective at
and you say it's simple to change?
When
If it
you-
were so simple to change,
Well,
why did it take you 4 weeks?
No. What I'm doing is simple. Changing is hard.
Yes. changing his heart.
I wish Tim could listen to the voice of the announcer for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's a Hall of Fame announcer named Vin Scully. I believe he's over 80 years of age. He's an old man by anybody's standards. His voice is as youthful sounding today as it did when he started with the team
So
when
is,
he was 23 years
So
of
is
age.
Mike Wallace. He's in his 80s.
You asked me if I could imitate my old voice. I can tell you that I answered the telephone and someone told my husband that his mother had said such and such, referring to me. I was horrified that I sounded old enough to be my husband's mother.
When I talk, my voice.
That's your old voice.
My husband's mother.
It is a geriatric sounding voice.
So, John, what do you want to say?
Boy, it's interesting. We had a patient in here, and she had a very badly geriatric voice, and she was a very vain woman who had plastic surgery, and she was a very presentable Beverly Hills kind of type. And we said to her, I mean, you've spent all this money on plastic surgery. I mean, you know, to look gorgeous, you look fantastic. And I said, what about your voice that, you know, makes you, know, kind of belies all of the work that you've done on yourself? Wouldn't you like to work on that? She never came back. Why didn't she come back?
She has a voice image and voice identity. They all have it. And they fight against changing it. And that's the psychological, social problem that has to be overcome. The way I overcome it is I put them in a room and let them work at it till they get accustomed to new sound. You cannot intellectually change them. You can only let them work at it till they get the feel of the voice in the face, relieves the tension in the lower throat, takes the pressure off the lower throat, stops the eye spasms that you had, Nancy.
I had eye spasms.
And the lower throat
I had
spasms.
Courting.
Right. Gurgling of your stomach,
I had
reversal from the breathing. And in the last minute, John, how would you summarize this whole thing that you've seen in treating spasmodic dysphonia?
First of all, I'd like to say that the guests that are here and sharing this information, it's very courageous of you to come here because it's pressure and it's also putting yourself on the line. But the reason why we'd like you to come here and share this is because you're living proof that this works, and that the conventional treatments, the injections, the surgeries, and what is being done today in the medical field produces very dicey results for patients. Most of the time, their voices get worse, and you're empowered right now to take this voice that you've developed to get out from the hole that you've been in, bring it up to a baseline where it's a normal voice, and now bring it to a superlative voice. You've got the techniques to do it.
Thank you very much, folks, for joining with me. It's a pleasure to talk with you and show you how miracles do happen. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
It's funny because they would regard this as a miracle, but this is not a miracle. This is basically, this is something that is predictable. Excuse me.
Great time.
Somebody's calling us right now.
What the interesting aspect is that spasmodic dysphonia is not hopeless. It's not incurable. It's curable. But the medical community will not give up its paradigm or its Botox shots and surgery.
We're getting called right now. I mean, it's just,
Just immediately, the phone lines are lighting up.
They already heard the show, and now we're getting a call. Probably getting Dr. Saddleoff calling in.